Well, hello to all of you from around the world. I want to thank you for joining us for another edition of Soulivity Today. We're broadcasting live from our studio right here in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and on KMET 1490 AM radio in Southern California. My name is Brian Wesley Johnson, and whether you're at home or driving or even at work, of course, we are always glad you're here with us. We have Man, this show is so good today. It's so amazing. I can't wait to get to it. But I've got to introduce my co-host first. Back with us is senior Soulivity contributor, Dr. Chanel DeGuzman, who is the author of the book, Come Back to Yourself, Love Free, Love Free. Love Life, Live Free.
Mhm.
Hey, Chanel, how are you, girl?
Hey, Brian, how are you doing?
I am fantastic.
You all
If I
can't
was
see, but
any,
Brian is sharp as always, so
oh, get out of here. Well, well, hey, I knew I was going to be on with you today, so I had to get right, get
you
it
had to come
tight, that kind of thing, so I could represent, you know.
all right.
Um, so we missed you last week. I know you were out doing, all these myriad of different things that you're doing out in the
Mhm.
public eye and everything, but we missed you. We're glad you're back. And
Thank you.
your advice today and counsel is going to be fantastic in terms of today's show. So I'm so glad you're here.
Yes, it's always good to be back, Brian, always.
Listen, everyone, we are talking about something important today that involves the manifestation process. Specifically how we can embrace fresh starts. This is something that we will do throughout our lives. We will be beginning anew as each chapter of our life closes. But for many of us, is fraught with procrastination and failure, to be quite honest, right? And still, these are moments that are opportunities for growth. I'm remembering, Chanel, the quote from Buddha: each morning we are born again. What we do today is what matters most. So, with some help from you, Dr. Chanel, and maybe our audience, if they have some suggestions as well, we're going to give all of you some advice about how to deal with the most common mistakes when we set our intentions for the year, as well as ways to get around that, ways to turn those into opportunities for growth, as I said before, so that they're just not failure, you know. So let's get started. Um, Dr. Chanel, have you heard of the fresh start effect before? It's a relatively new
Honestly,
concept.
Brian, yeah, honestly, not until I was preparing for the show. I
Yeah.
think the concept is there. We get a burst of energy for the new year, for, once you have a birthday, you're ready to start
Yeah.
anew. But the terminology I have not, but I like it, it's catchy, it makes perfect
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. And to those of you who are not familiar with the fresh start effect, this is when, like, it's an arbitrary time that we pick on the calendar. Sometimes it's birthdays, sometimes it's anniversaries, sometimes it's the beginning of a new season. More commonly known, it's like at the beginning of the new year, right? Like New Year's resolutions and that kind of thing. And there's this effect that happens where we get this burst of energy. We're like, oh, I'm going to start anew, and we rush into creating new intentions for ourselves, right? And so that's the
Mhm.
fresh start effect. We experience it throughout our entire lives. A lot of times we experience it throughout the year. Um, but the most important thing about it that I think that we need to understand about the fresh start effect is that it drives us towards some type of goal setting, right? Intention
Mhm.
setting.
Mhm.
And there's a whole bunch of techniques out there to do it. It doesn't matter what technique you use, but it's more about creating intentions and goals that are sustainable, right? So that that energy that comes in from the fresh start effect, that you're able to maintain it, right? And that
Right.
you're keeping it fresh and that kind of thing,
Right.
throughout the whole year. Um, you know, I am quote unquote guilty of, when the new year begins, setting intentions for the new year, even though, as you know, Dr. Chanel, I don't stop there. I typically, like,
Right.
I'll talk to all of you guys around Soulivity and things that I'm doing. And there's many times at which I'm like, oh, I've got this new thing. I'm being led to do this. And then I'm writing down that intention and moving on. Is it similar for you sometimes, where you have this burst of energy, and it might not be at the beginning of the year, it might be sometime later on in the year?
Yeah, I was thinking about that, Brian, and I feel like I try to be very intentional because we've talked about intentionality, we've talked about
Yeah,
expansion. I'm just in this constant state of striving
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
accomplishing.
yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it feels like, honestly, can I get a break? Like, like there's not a time. I think kind of like how you're always setting a new goal, you're always going for that next thing. And we'll have to do a whole nother show on, pausing. But I
Yeah,
think what
yeah,
I do definitely in December, and it's almost like a forced activity, is I do my visioning and my vision board in December. And so
right,
I do use the new year as sort of a reset to upgrade my vision and to recommit and amplify my agenda. And I do that in December to give me a running start because you know how we
right.
kind of, that last 2 weeks, we kinda take it easy. So I wanna be
Yeah.
ready, like, to have a marker for that 1st of January, 1st of the new year, to have my vision
Hmm.
in place, have it cemented in my mind, and then start creating the habit of daily renewing my mind, as you were alluding to earlier. So I renew my mind daily on my vision and my
Right.
visualization, so I sear it in on a daily basis. But I do start that process in late December.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And it's okay, right? I mean, again, we'll do a show on balance later on in the
Right,
season. Maybe it might be a
right.
companion to this one around, because one of
Mhm,
the things that they say in this article around embracing a fresh start is, sometimes we get so engaged in the act of setting goals and intentions for ourselves that that's all that it
mhm.
becomes. It just, oh, we're going to
Right,
set these goals, set these goals, set these goals, and the
right,
actual accomplishment of the goal becomes an afterthought, right? And
right,
so it's one
right.
thing that we have to look out for. But there's four specific things that are most common, and we're going to go through those today. We're going to start in this segment with the first one, which is setting too many goals, right?
Mhm,
Where
mhm.
everything becomes a priority. Um, yeah, in the past, I've done this where
Yeah.
I've got just a crap load of different things that I want to accomplish. They're all important to me, and it's
Mhm.
like that old, like the saying of, you're a jack of all trades but not a master of none.
Right,
And
right.
same kind of concept here, where um you know this, it says, if everything is a priority, it's hard to figure out what matters. The most likely
Mhm,
outcome: stagnation or feeling of failure, as you fail to achieve everything you set out to achieve. And that can
mhm.
also lead to depression, right? Or a
Mhm.
depressed feeling about what you want to do. Have you been in that situation before, Dr. Chanel?
You know, Brian, I think I probably have. What came to my mind, though, immediately, though, when you started talking about that, was Tyler Perry. Do you know, I don't know if you know his
Yeah,
story. He talks about how in the beginning,
yeah,
before
yeah,
Medea, he was trying to do this and he was trying to do that and he was trying to do that. And like our dear beloved friend Sheila would say, I mean, that's divided energy. So you've got your
yes,
energy over here in pot A over here in pot B, over here in pot C, and none of them are taking root, and none of them are
Yes.
really blooming because you've
Yes.
got your energy divided
Yes.
versus putting all your attention, all your focus, all your energy, watering, you know, doing the weeds. I'm not a gardener, doing the weeds, pulling up the weeds, and you stay focused on that one pot. And I bet you will see it germinate, it will bloom, and it will bear fruit, which is what we
Yes.
really are after, right? We're trying to bear
Right.
fruit from our intentions. And if we've got ourselves divided, it really only leads to exhaustion and diminished returns. And
Yeah,
so
I
I'm thinking of
love
a time
that.
that may
Yeah,
have
go ahead.
happened, but yeah, go ahead, Brian.
No, no, no. I love that you're bringing this up, right? Because that in part is what setting too many goals brings, right?
Mhm.
That one, you don't that the amount of time that you have in a day to do things is not unlimited, right?
Right.
And what is the main focus? What is the thing that you're being led to do in this moment that will move you ahead? And if you're trying to do all these different things, then again, that divided energy comes into play
Mhm.
where,
Mhm.
you know, yeah, you might be moving ahead, but it's so incremental, so small
Yes.
and
Yes.
incremental that you don't feel it. You don't feel
Mhm.
like you're making any progress. And then that feeling leads to everything else that we're dealing with. So thank you for that. Thank you for bringing that up
Yes.
because that's so, 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 so,
Yes.
so, so important.
Mhm.
Um, um, you know, so I guess the lesson here in this first thing is you've got to scale back. You've got to scale back those some
Mhm.
of the intentions and goals that you have. Um, you know, and see those as, listen, don't try to conquer the mountain all at once. Make the mountain stepping stones, as my father would say,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Where, okay, they make a more, not just logical sense, but they feel right in your gut in terms of how you're moving forward. The other thing
Mhm.
too is that some of these intentions need to also kind of be layered out in a way where maybe you're pushing yourself to expand a little bit here, right?
Mhm.
Because this is
Mhm.
part of the process, right? The intention is supposed to help you grow and expand. Growing and expand is not always comfortable, right? It's all about
Right.
pushing beyond the boundaries that you have so that you have more skills, more acumen, um, um, and more of the life that you're wanting. That requires you to know more, learn more, and grow more. Any final
And
thought about
do more.
this one? Yeah.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts from
Yeah.
you?
I
Yeah.
think Yep, I think one thing we can talk about maybe on the other side is maybe you are also dividing your energy because of that real big thing. You might not have the clear path to it. And so you do things that you feel like you can do versus that thing that's going to require faith, that's going to require stretching and expansion. So
Right.
sometimes we dilute the big vision and we work on these smaller things because we're good at the smaller things.
Right.
And that's just
Yeah.
a procrastination strategy, Brian, that keeps us from doing what we're really called to do. And
Yeah.
so that might be one thing we keep in mind.
I love that. I love that. And that lines up with what we're going to be talking about next. But we're going to take a quick break. We've got more on how all this kind of comes together as we go through step by step by step, looking at the things in terms of embracing a fresh start that maybe don't work and then turning those into things that do for you to be able to seize your growth. So anyway, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back with more of Soulivity today in about 2 minutes. Hi there, this is Brian with Soulivity.com. I want to share some exciting news about our new Aspire Academy by Soulivity. Now, you probably want to know what the Aspire Academy by Soulivity is. Well, it exclusively connects you with people around the globe and who share the intense desire to improve themselves and create a better life for themselves today. There's classes, there's workshops, there's live events, and even more exclusively just for you. You see, I wanted you to have a safe space where you could grow, you can learn, and it would empower you in all aspects of your life, including your mind, your body, and your soul. So, how do you get started? Well, it is so easy. First of all, the best part, joining Aspire Academy is absolutely free. Just click on the Join Now button, sign up, and begin your journey. As a special part of this invitation to you, there are some free courses that are available for you to try from our amazing roster of coaches and collaborators. It's our way of saying thank you for all of your support and being with us along our journey of expansion. I hope you enjoyed the Aspire Academy by Soulivity today. Start the process. Learn more about your passion, your purpose, and how to live a higher quality life. Well, it is a beautiful day here in Washington, D.C., a lot warmer than it was last week. As you can see, all the snow's gone, but it's still a beautiful day, a little overcast, but we're going to take that as we're welcoming you back to Soulivity today with my very, very special co-host, Dr. Chanel DeGuzman, as we talk about embracing a fresh start for the new year. Dr. Chanel, again, I love what you were talking about before at the end of the last segment, where, you know, goals that matter and really are aligned with us, which actually is a part of this process, which we're going to get to in the next segment. But what you're also talking about relates to something that's the second common problem that people run into that's related to that. And that is, you know, goals that are too specific or rigid and that lead to unintended negative side effects or inappropriate risk taking. Right? So, you know, when we're setting these goals, you know, we've got to keep in mind that, you know, I'll just tell this really quick story. When treasure mapping, right, or vision boarding, there's one thing that I was taught a long time ago that you always add either to each like little thing that your goal, that the like the picture or whatever, or overall on the whole board, and that is this, greater, or better.
Yes, Brian.
Meaning, you know what I mean? Meaning,
Yep.
I'm asking for this, but I'm also asking for source, God, spirit, you know, whatever your belief system is. I'm asking for that support in realizing beyond what I may see with my five senses, right? And what is like, okay, this is cool, but I know you're asking for this over here ultimately. So I'm going to show you how to get this over here, which is better than you've ever could have hoped for, right? And then you accept that. We look at that also in terms of our goals. I'll let you kind of comment on that because I could see that stirred some energy.
Yeah, we were definitely on the same mindset of what I would consider allowing. So yes, I've got my specific goals, my specific intentions, my specific aims, but I am also realizing that at least the God that I serve is infinite and has infinite abundance for me beyond what I could ever think or imagine. And so I am setting my intention based on my desires and my values, but I'm also allowing God and the universe to guide my steps. There's divine timing, there's divine order. And so
Yeah.
things can come to
Amen.
you that you don't even expect. I'll give you an example, Brian. This is just to
Hmm.
share in my business. I'm going along in my business and I get a email that says, "Hey, would you like to apply for a basically like an RFP, a request for proposals for executive coaching?" And this is from a supplier diversity person. So my partner and I, we just submitted a proposal for $5.7 million just on last Friday, Brian. And so we were
Fantastic.
really busy last week too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I say that to say that I wasn't expecting that. That was not in my plan. But an opportunity presented itself and I allowed myself to be responsive and to be open and avail myself to divine order. So that was already in the works. That was already I was already in that person's mind. And I just basically availed myself and put my best foot forward, submitted it. We'll find out the end of February, God willing. But yeah, we don't want to be locked in so much that we don't open ourselves up to the natural flowing of the universe and God's divine purpose and plan for us, because He can bring
Yeah.
people into our life, into our path that can be a tremendous blessing, one that we weren't even anticipating. So,
Right.
all that
Right.
to say is that let's stay open and allow, in addition to expecting us to fulfill what we set out to do, but to be
Right.
open to new experiences and new opportunities that might come our way as well.
Right. Right. You know, as you're talking about this, I'm remembering things that my mentors have said, things that my parents, who are also mentors of mine, have said around like goal setting, right? A lot of times when we set specific goals, we get so engaged into the who of how that affects us, like in terms of like, what stature does this thing bring, how do people perceive me, and that kind of thing, that's more outer, and our goals don't
Mhm,
represent the what of who we are. We're spiritual beings in a human existence, and what does that represent for us in terms of our own growth? Like, when I moved here to Washington D.C., I was more concerned about the feeling of what this was going to bring me, and the feeling of being able to overcome and expand beyond what I had already done in my life,
mhm,
and embracing the unlimited opportunities that existed, right? And so on my treasure map, every picture that I put on there, everything that I put up represented that feeling, and not necessarily me obtaining a thing, right?
mhm,
Because cars come and go, homes come and go, money is spent
mhm,
every single day, but what
mhm.
does it really matter when you have this feeling of expansion and growth and that kind of thing that's there, um that is not so rigid, where it's like, I've got to have this Chanel purse or Louis Vuitton purse that is this way in XYZ, and I have to buy it today, or else I'm not, you know, successful, right? Or I have to have this specific position at this specific organization, and it's got to work this way. Because how many times have we gone through that experience where we picked that and we've even gotten it, and we come to find out that's not what we really want? It doesn't
Absolutely.
fulfill us. It's not fulfilling us.
That pardon me, that's the thing right there, is that feeling. We have got, if we could just write that like every time, it's the feeling of what you want that produces what you
This
want.
is
So you've already got to
exactly,
feel that accomplishment even before you get it in order to produce the
absolutely,
accomplishment. So one of my
absolutely.
affirmations is, like, I am wealthy. I want to continue to be wealthy. So the feeling of wealth is what produces wealth. So we've
Absolutely.
got to always be tapped into the feeling of the thing that we
Right.
actually want in
Right.
order for us to, you said, manifest it,
Right.
because it's vibration, and the vibration is what
Absolutely.
attracts to us the opportunities, the people, the resources to get us the thing that we want. So
Absolutely.
feeling,
Absolutely.
feeling, feeling.
Feelings. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Is that old song? Anyway, and speaking of
Old song.
feelings, we're going to take, yeah, I know, right? We're going to take this quick break and we're going to talk about the companion to this, which is passion and purpose, right? Those feelings that should be involved in our goal setting. So we're going to take this quick break and we'll be back with more of Soulivity today in about a couple minutes.
Do you see me kneeling on this dual roller called Parasetter? It's actually comfortable because of this channel and the softness of the special foam. It feels like my kneecaps are being massaged. When I lie down, my spine is housed in this channel, while the convex rollers massage my muscles. They let go and lengthen. There's a traction effect from my head on the headrest and my mid-back from the rib wrap, which hugs me. When I start the breathing sequence, I feel calm because my cortisol levels are dropping. Lower cortisol means bye-bye constant hunger. Parasetter is 40 inches long and much more comfortable than old-style rollers, but it weighs only 10 ounces. Parasetter, just like Pilates was, is no longer an insider secret. Do yourself a favor. Reset your parasympathetic nervous system. Defeat stress. Lying, sitting, kneeling, or standing. This unique patented roller helps everyone.
Six years ago, when I started Soulivity, my vision was to support everyone in improving their life through the discovery of their passion and purpose, so they could become the best version of themselves, to battle fear and ignorance, and create a better world today. Get inspired to live your passion and purpose. Visit soulivity.com now.
Hey, we're back here with more on Soulivity today, where we are discussing, how to avoid the fade of the fresh start syndrome and learn how to continue with your intentions for growth and expansion all year long through embracing this fresh start. And Dr. DeGuzman is back with me as well. Chanel, we were just talking about, this combination of either having too many goals, which, where you're a master of none, or to setting too rigid of goals. And those are really, really important. But I think this next one really, 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 really is important. And that's just what I found to be true. And that is, that your goals don't invoke any passion, right? There's no like real energy into them. And you were just talking about this before, where if you don't have, if when you look at that goal and the feeling that's invoked is all about how people look at you, then it's not sustainable. But if you look at that goal and not only does it get you excited where you're popping up out of bed in the morning, but that energy, even when you're tired, even when it's challenging, even when you've got to figure out how to go over obstacles, it still keeps driving you forward. That's the right goal. That's the right goal.
That's right. Brian,
Right?
I
Because it's
think
got to
what
start there. Go
happens,
ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, I think what happens sometimes is because when I'm coaching the women, the executive women that I work with, the supervisors, the directors, the CEOs, sometimes they
Mm-hmm.
tell me they don't know what they really want, like what they're really, truly passionate. And what
Mm.
we do is we end up starting to pull back some of those layers, and what we find is that they have been suppressing their desires.
Yes.
They've been suppressing their wantings, their longings, and I'm equating all this to just pure passion, like things that
Yeah.
energize you, things that are gonna make a difference, something that you're concerned about, something that makes you angry, something that makes you happy, something that you want to see changed, right? Whatever that thing is, sometimes we think that we can't obtain it because we don't know how to
Yeah.
do it. And so
Right.
we basically keep in the day to day, I'm not going to use the word rut, but we keep in the day to day mayhem
Right.
of, going to work, going to our business, coming home, if we work out, cooking, and then on the couch or with a glass of wine. That's what some of the women tell me. But
Right.
I think
Right.
it's important to figure out what is keeping you from digging down deep enough to get that feeling of passion, to get that motivation, to allow yourself to go after what it is that you really want. Is it
Right.
what you think, like you said, society's gonna say about it? Women don't do this or girls don't do
Right.
that, or
Right.
what is it that is really holding you back? And once you start to peel away those layers and get down to the core, then we can start putting some, true energy, some true light to that desire so it can take root and start to germinate and grow. But we
Absolutely.
gotta
Woo.
dig
You
gotta deep
got to
if
dig deep.
we're not going after what we really want or letting that passion come through. And, let me just say this. Sometimes there are people, I think, Nelson Mandela says this, President Nelson Mandela says this, is that, sometimes you think that you gotta stay small because you know how big you are. And so you keep it undercover because you don't
Cover.
want to intimidate, you don't wanna overpower, you don't want
Right.
to, let the world know just how big and bad you are. So there's that other side
Exactly.
too, Brian. Let me just throw that in there.
Absolutely. You can't go small, right? And I'll throw into this where um you know young folks, this is something that I'm talking specifically to you, and I mean people who are probably between high school age and college age. The things that you think that you want like immediately and that kind of thing, where you want them today, which is connected to the next thing we're going to be talking about, but this is about passion, right? Drive, like the drive behind things.
Mhm.
You've got to look at your life, even though it's hard. You have to look at your life from a perspective of where do I really want to see myself, and how do I want to feel 5 years
Mhm.
from now,
Mhm.
10 years from now, right? Because I'm going to tell you, if you know what that feeling is, which is not permanent, it's not like, oh, well, that's what I'm going to feel like forever. We're just talking about that
Right.
limited amount of time.
Right.
If you're not planning your life and saying, okay, well, I want to be educated, and I want to be educated in something in this that brings about where I can use this later on to make a turn toward more service or be in of service and that kind of thing, then that will drive you forward to getting to school on time, getting all A's in
Yes.
college, doing
Yes.
you know you know uh you know you know joining different groups, writing and applying for those scholarships,
Those
right?
scholarships.
Because
It's alignment.
it's all
Alignment.
in alignment in where you want to be, and that feeling down the road, and that as you do the work, that feeling is with you. Every test that you take that you get 100% on keeps driving you forward to that goal. So that's how I would love, I want young people to understand that's what we're talking about. We're not just talking about, oh, I'm going to be a millionaire tomorrow, right?
Right.
That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, I want the feeling that my life matters. In fact, that should be at the top of the list, beyond money and all that stuff. I want to create a life that matters. And so becoming educated and whatever it is, mastering something and then moving forward is part of it. And that takes time. But to get through that time is the passion,
Absolutely.
part. So,
Absolutely.
you know, learn about what that means for ourselves. Don't think small. Allow your imagination to drive you forward, as Dr. Chanel was talking about, and then understand that divine time is part of this process. And as you focus on what that dream is, that big feeling, that big ticket feeling is down the road, the universe and God will support you in moving you through that part.
Absolutely.
You know, with some ease, peace, and grace. And so with that, listen, we're going to let that sink in, y'all. But we're going to take another quick break. And when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about what I just said and that divine timing, because and how all that kind of like moves in this, because all this stuff me and Dr. Chanel are talking about is things that we've already experienced and continue to experience. So listen, we're going to take this break and we'll be back with more of Soulivity Today in just a moment. Find all of the Satana products at our Go shop at go.soulivity.com.
Have you ever asked the question, if I was to be anything, what would I be? Regardless of money, regardless of status, beyond popularity and fame. Living your passion, feeling your life has purpose. Soulivity is a space to nurture that which lives in all of us. A place where work can become play, and doing what we love creates the dreams of a lifetime.
Hello, New York City. Looks like it is a cloudy and overcast day there, but I can still peep out that beautiful skyline. Welcome back to Soulivity Today on Soulivity.com. We are talking about embracing a fresh start for the new year. This is all about, learning how to embrace those concepts and those kind of things that keep you moving forward with your intentions and with your goals, and not, and allowing you to seize those opportunities of growth when you're, in a position where maybe you need to make a course correction, right? And we've been talking about this throughout this show. So we kind of went through them where first and foremost, it's setting too many goals for yourself. Next is setting goals that are too rigid or it's too specific. And then the next is goals that don't invoke passion. And then the last thing that we want to talk about today is goals that have an inappropriate timeline, right? This is all about kind of like divine timing and that kind of thing. On a more analytical kind of standpoint, it's like goals that contradict each other. So you can have short-term goals and long-term goals, but they don't match up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They don't match up where it's like, you know, in the long term, you're like, hey, I want to have an organization where I feel we're on firm financial ground and that we're incrementally growing organically and that kind of thing. But our short-term goal is, you know, I want my salary bonus in the next quarter to be $100,000, where you've never given out that kind of bonus before.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? Even though there's nothing on the horizon, there's nothing that's there. You've never paid yourself you've not even made $100,000 in a year, and yet you're asking for. So those two goals are they're in conflict with each other in terms of your timing.
Right.
The other piece about this is something that we were talking about before, and that is, you know, there's divine timing in all this, and so there's a lot of times at which we have to let the universe give us the how this is all going to come about, right? I'm sure, Dr. Chanel, with this RFP that you found out about a while ago, that opportunity came based upon a goal that you had a passion about. And that maybe an email came through, you had a meeting and they told you about this, or you were led to sign up for an organization that lets you know about opportunities, and then this opportunity came through. I mean, those are all the how, right? That's all around the how and all that kind of stuff. And so we have to allow the universe to handle the details a lot of times around the timing of things. We can't control that. We can't control that. Yeah, go ahead, Dr.
You know, yeah, the thing is that you've got to do the daily task that you know to do, right? There are certain things that you know you should be doing. And those things end up leading to, you know, that big invitation to a multi-million-dollar RFP or an invitation to a job, because, you know, the jobs that are those really good jobs, those are ones that are networked, meaning you have put in the time, invested in relationships, getting to know people, letting people get to know you, attending events, being visible, you know, doing the day in and day out that may not have an immediate return, but over the long term, if you're doing those daily tasks that at least have you on the path, you're going to eventually produce or manifest the thing that you say that you want. And that's all goes back to that alignment. I mean, there are no shortcuts. You've got to, you know, I believe this. I'm old school, Brian. I think you are too. You have to pay your dues. And so, you know, getting that $100,000 bonus is not going to happen in the first quarter. You know, it's going to take some time. So you've got to invest and do those daily things. Just quick example, you know, being a consultant, I'm essentially a salesperson. And so I have to prospect for new leads, for new opportunities, even among my clients every single day, right? I can't just, you know, go after the big thing and then neglect the daily habits that lead to ultimate success. So let's just keep that in mind when we're talking about timing. There are no shortcuts. You've got to pay your dues. You've got to put in the time every single day. And I think to become a master of something, Brian, you have to put in 1,000 hours. So when you get 1,000 hours into something, and then let's talk about those results, and the timeline will take care of itself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that 1,000 hours has to be mining the things that you're being taught to do, right? I would say this too. It's important for us to begin each day and each experience in some type of centered peace and silence.
Yes.
It may be prayer for people, it may be meditation for people, it may be mindfulness kind of techniques and all that. There was a gentleman that my father worked under, who was a multi-millionaire. I mean, this was back in the day, back in the 60s. And each morning he would go out on his back porch on his ranch, and he would basically meditate for 20 to 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then whatever came up for him in that meditation, he'd write down.
Mm-hmm.
And if it was an idea on like executing something of that kind, he would bring it to his staff and they would execute on it. And 9 times out of 10, one or two things happened. Either one, it led immediately to something that was a great idea, that was either a great product or service that they were able to sell immediately and it was a success, or it led to that group thinking about, okay, this is a path to that particular product or service that we're going to offer, or some type of opportunity. So we're always being led. So when we're in alignment with all that and we're connected, the timeline and all that stuff kind of melts away, and we're led to do the things that you're talking about too, that you were just talking about. We're led to do daily stuff every day, right? This is the, like, God, hey, this is the things you need to be focused on today. Don't focus on this other stuff. Focus on this today. Yes, you have your goal, you have the thing that you're trying to feel about, but I'm telling you today, these are the things you need to be doing. And so you start doing those things. And what'll happen is that you'll be like, wow, okay, I start seeing things just coming into my space that help me move the ball down the road. And so it is a wonderful feeling to be able to surrender to that greatness and to the unlimited opportunity and divine timing, and allow yourself to learn, grow, and expand. Learn, grow, and expand. Learn, grow, and expand, and do that over and over and over and over again. That's what's important.
Yes.
That's
And Brian, I would add to that is to sear it, SEAR. I think I'm spelling that right, to sear it with gratitude. So I am just so grateful for every opportunity that comes my way. I'm grateful for every person that I encounter, because I know every person that's on my path is divinely ordered and guided. And I just give appreciation and thankfulness, and having a heart of gratitude will continue to attract more things to be grateful for. You already know that. And so let's just sear all of this with a big old dose of gratitude.
Yeah, and it can be a sandwich. You can have it in the morning and in the evening, and everything else is in the middle. You know, thank you for that. That is a very powerful, 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 powerful way to bring about the things that we want to bring about in terms of our lives and that kind of thing. Girl, you on fire today.
You were on fire too.
Listen, any final thoughts about this before we move into some shameless plugs?
You know, I would say what you just said. Let's just remember to start every day with that intention, with the meditation for growth, learning, and expansion. And then go out and do the thing that you really want to do. You know, there's a saying, what do you really want for yourself? Go after that. You're having trouble with that, you know, let's talk. But yeah, there's just a wonderful wealth of opportunities out there. And we just have to go after what it is that we're called to do, that only we're uniquely called and qualified to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, for those of you who, and Dr. Chanel, you mentioned this earlier today around, like, you're trying to figure out what that thing is that you're passionate about and you're not sure and all that kind of thing. For those of you whose parents are still with you, and that are amenable to talking to you about, like when you were young, right? One great exercise is to ask friends and family who you trust, who are trustworthy
Mhm.
around
Mhm.
this. When you were younger, what were those things that you just couldn't get enough of, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes it's like kids were like building blocks, right? They like putting building blocks and all this kind of stuff, right? Other children love drawing and that kind of thing. Now, what does that mean? That doesn't mean you're supposed to make a career out of necessarily putting building blocks together, right? But it may
Right.
be that maybe the career that you want or the passion that you infuse is when you're seeing something being created in a way where you're working with your hands, right?
Right. Right.
And then that leads you to maybe when you were in college and maybe you were thinking about going into this career or that career and you decided, oh, my parents don't want me to do that, or that's not big, or that's not quote unquote like something that's people can perceive me as being larger than life and all that. Let all that go and let yourself just imagine as a little kid. Let that little kid come out, right? And start exploring different things. Undoubtedly, what will happen is over time, that thing that you are most passionate about in this moment will emerge.
Mhm.
And then that will
Absolutely.
lead you to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. So with that,
Absolutely.
listen,
That's your
thank you, Dr.
fantastic
Chanel.
life.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. And so we're going to get into some shameless plugs now. This is things that are on our platform and that our collaborators and contributors have. And we kind of talked about it before this morning when we opened up. Chanel, you have a fantastic book that's Come Back to Yourself, Love Life, Live Free that I butchered earlier.
No,
Tell people a little bit about
yeah.
this book really quickly, and then we got
Yeah.
to go.
In the book, yep. In one of the chapters, we talk about passion and your purpose. And so if you're unclear, if you're afraid to go after your passion, your purpose, let's talk. Reach out to me for a free consultation and let's get you on the right path in
Absolutely.
2024.
Absolutely. And listen, guys, with that, we are out of time. So we are going to see you next time on Soulivity today. And keep on pursuing your passion and purpose, and you're going to create that high life today.
This work is subject to copyright owned by Affinity Global LLC. Any reproduction or